All right, let the college football playoffs continue, and we're going to break down these remaining games here for you today on the College Football Kickoff Show, powered by WagerTalk.com. Not to mention, we're going to mix in a bowl game or two, or even three coming up here, and we're going to do it with three of our favorites here on a Friday, and that being the one, the only, Ross Benjamin in the house here today to bring one to you, as is Mr. Vino, Robert Vino in the house, ready to roll, and the one and only TC, Teddy Covers, ready to rock and roll. Still plenty of college football to go here, guys, as we enter this weekend, the final weekend before we head to, 2025, goddamn. But I think we got 13 bowl games over the next 48 hours. You guys are going to break down three of them. We're going to start with you, Ross, and we're going to head to this Baylor taking on LSU, and it is hard enough to figure out which LSU team shows up on a week-in and week-out basis during the regular season. I have no friggin' idea what you're going to get in a bowl game with Brian Kelly. We've seen a lot of Baylor money in the marketplace since this game opened up here. How are you looking at this one?
Yeah, I mean, let's start with LSU. Lost 17 players already to the transfer portal, including their leading wide receiver, who went for 866 yards and 9 touchdowns. So not only are they hard to figure out during the regular season, Joe, but they might be even more difficult right now. But they're certainly not the same team roster-wise that they were during regular season action. Now, LSU, I mean, they started the season 6-1. Then they lose their next 3 games to A&M, Alabama, and Florida by double-digit margins. They did finish the season with wins over Vandy and one other team that finished 6-6, Oklahoma. So it's in both of those teams. Oklahoma finished losing 5 of their last 6 against FBS opponents. I think Vandy lost their last 3. So nothing to hang your hat on there. Baylor, on the other hand, 2-4 to start the year, Joe. And then they go on a 6-0 straight up an ATS run to finish the season. You know, sometimes it just comes down to when it comes to bowl games with no national title implications, it comes down to what team is more motivated to be there. That's not always the tell-all, be-all, but certainly is something that needs to be heavily considered. I just think Baylor is the more motivated team right now. They're coming off, a 6-game win streak. LSU had high aspirations to start the season. When they got to 6-1, they were talking about college football playoff chances, and now here they are in a mediocre bowl game against an 8-4 Baylor team. I'm going to actually use Baylor on the money line here. They're at 2.5, but you can catch a price of -130 over DraftKings right now. Baylor -130 over LSU.
Yeah, amazing how Dave Aranda kind of saved his own ass this year, isn't it? They were calling for it. They were mutiny. They wanted a new coach. They wanted him out of Baylor. He sucks. Yeah, not anymore. He doesn't. And he'll have an opportunity to take down LSU coming up. So, yes, love Baylor in this spot against LSU. I'm going to go in time order here, guys, because we do have a game coming up on this Friday here. If you're joining us live, you are no doubt watching Navy throw up all over themselves to start, but they did just get back into this game against OU. 14-7 right now is what we're seeing. And then, of course, we have coming up at 3:30 another very interesting game, Teddy Covers, one that's going to involve Georgia Tech getting ready to take on Vandy. And, listen, Georgia Tech was a little beat up there down the stretch, but they're different when they have their quarterback under center, and it appears they'll have their quarterback under center here for this game against Vandy. What do you think we're going to get?
Yeah, both teams are going to have their quarterback. This is one of those bowl games that everyone's interested. And both teams have sold out more than their allotted tickets, So it should be a good game this afternoon. Again, this is a 12:30 Pacific time, 3:30 Eastern time kickoff today in Birmingham, Alabama. Georgia Tech -3 total 49 right now against Alabama. Looking at against Vanderbilt, who beat Alabama this year, but it's Vanderbilt nonetheless. Looking at the free WagerTalk live odds screen. When you have two teams that are interested, I'm interested in a couple of different things. I'm looking for any additional motivating factors. I'm looking for teams in their particular roles. And I am interested in the opt-outs, even though two teams are interested. And from an opt-out standpoint, Georgia Tech has lost a couple of key guys. I mean, they lose Eric Singleton, who's their leading receiver this season. Romello Height, who leads the team in tackles for loss in the transfer portal. Offensive tackle Corey Robinson started most of the season. Those guys are all out for Georgia Tech. I think they matter. As a trio, I think they matter. Now, we talk about roles. Georgia Tech has one cover this year as a single-digit favorite. All right. They've been able to blow out the bad teams. They've been able to hang tough with the good teams. But in this particular role, Georgia Tech has not been a money winner. Meanwhile, Vanderbilt, this is a team that hasn't won a bowl since 2013. All right. There is clear motivation there. Georgia Tech won their bowl game last year. Vandy, 7-2 ATS is a dog this season. 4 outright upsets during that span. So they've been very good in this role. And there's one other factor that I have to talk about here, and that's Vandy's special teams, who have been elite this season. And again, when you have elite special teams, it makes your statistical profile look weaker because you're not gaining as many yards, and your opponent has to gain more yards every time they score. You know, when you're traveling, when you're on shorter fields and your opponent's on longer fields, because you have a special teams edge, it actually makes your stats look worse. And when we look at the stats, the statistical profile, which is why Georgia Tech is favored here, they've outgained their opponents by half a yard per play, and Vandy's at minus 0.7 yards per play. But Vanderbilt special teams have created a lot of that. I think they have the significantly better special teams in this ballgame, and I would not be surprised if a game-changing special teams play makes a difference in this one. Yeah, give me the Commodores plus the 3. It's a client play as well as a free play here on College Football Today.
Teddy, I'm looking in the chat rooms here. We got a lot of people very interested in this game. I'll start over in YouTube Shorts there. Danny Brown is with, I believe, Jessica, as well as Javi over on TikTok, who likes Georgia Tech to get the W, but both Javi and Danny Brown like the over in this one here. Teddy, you're talking about a Yellow Jackets team averaging nearly 30 points a game. Vandy, 27. A lot more, it feels like, defensive guys missing out in this game than the offensive side. Would you lean towards the over in this one as well?
So here's my problem with over in this game, and I would not recommend the over. All right. We have 2 quarterbacks we like. We have 2 offenses that we like. However, from a pace standpoint, what does Vandy want to do? Long, slow, methodical drives, grind clock. What does Georgia Tech want to do? Long, slow, methodical drives, grind clock. So this could easily be a game where we're talking about 8 or 9 drives per team, not 11, 12, 13, 14. And when you're talking about fewer drives, shortening the game, it makes me reluctant to play the over. So I understand conceptually why you want an over here, but I think the style of gameplay for these 2 teams, unless we see quick strike, big play touchdowns, they're going to have a hard time because of the fewer possessions in this ballgame getting up and over the number. So it's a pay. I'm certainly not playing the under, but I'm not getting the window with the over.
Love that. Yeah, I mean, it's strange, right? Most mid-level bowls this time of year, we're missing one, if not both, starting quarterbacks, and yet here we go. We have both guys under center here, which I think will make this a whole lot of fun to watch coming up at 3:30 Eastern time. David Hawley, Vandy plus 3. Jessica, don't forget, guys, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. We certainly appreciate you hanging out with us here on this Friday as we head into, what is a baker's dozen coming up over the next 48 hours in bowl games, not to mention the college football playoff games, which we're going to go roundtable here in just a few as we welcome in Rob Vino to the house, ready to roll. And Rob, if we're excited because we get 2 starting quarterbacks to go in this game. Holy crap. How is Washington State even playing this game? Like, why are they even playing this game? I just saw it about an hour and a half ago, Rob. This thing ballooned up to 20. And then it looks like the line was drawn in the sand. The buyback came down. Looks like we're about 18 and a half right now. And who can blame them? I don't even know who's coaching Washington State at this point. Everybody's gone. Quarterback's gone. Most all the starters are gone. I mean, this is just a head scratcher. Yet Syracuse appears to be bringing the entire damn team that they played with this year to this bowl game. So I get why people were backing Syracuse, but has this gotten out of control, Vino, or what? Oh, here's where we clap it out now.
You got me?
Oh, there we go. All right, we're in. Yes.
You give it till 8 o'clock East, Joe, and It may get back to 20 again, right? People have a few bowl games to bet before this one even kicks off. So obviously they're all going to see what we see. This is like low-hanging fruit, right? You think you have options here, and there's only one page of options, and they all belong to Syracuse. I feel like the best way for me is just to focus in on the Syracuse offense and play them over their team total. It's 38.5. It's 38.5 for a reason. They played 2 bowl teams and scored over 40 points against 2 of them already this season. But let's just look at it from if Washington State was healthy standpoint. If their defense was whole, it's the 117th ranked pass defense in the country when they have everybody. Now you're without all 4 starting defensive backs. You're without 2 defensive tackles. One happens to be your sack leader. One happens to be the guy who leads your team or is second in tackles for loss. No pass pressure, no pass coverage, and you have the number 1 pass offense coming into town, you got issues. And to your point, Joe, Fran Brown, you're not playing any games, head coach of Syracuse. And his quote was, "We don't opt out around here." And so it's a guy trying to build a program. It's a guy trying to climb the ACC ladder. And a blowout in a bowl game in front of a national audience does wonders for recruiting and everything else. And he's done a pretty good job of that already. Washington State, like you say, we don't even have to list all of the people. But like I said earlier, I think the significant portion here is Syracuse wants to throw the football. All their pieces are in place to throw the football. And the other team couldn't stop it when they had all their guys. For Washington State, that issue could compound on offense because there's a possibility here. Syracuse plays an aggressive brand of defense. There's a possibility this defense could set up some short fields, maybe at least one. Maybe they get some defensive points on their own because instead of John Mateer, who, by the way, probably the best portal pickup so far at quarterback for anybody, he's going to go to Oklahoma and take his act there. I wish he was playing. Nation needs to see this guy, but they're going to have a guy named Zevi Eckhouse. He transferred from Bryan. FCS football followers know Bryant's a team that slings it around, but he's only had 7 pass attempts all season long. He's going to go at it with the major part of his offense, missing a right tackle. He's missing 3 receivers, but the leading receiver, Kyle Williams, is there. They might be able to score some points. That's the reason why I can't get to lay an 18. With Syracuse because the back door's open for a possibility here. Washington State's going to try. Yes, to their coaches, Joe, it's their defensive line coach acting as interim here. But the rest of this offensive staff is scattered. And Jake Dickert, the head coach, took off. Offensive coordinator took off to Oklahoma. Quarterback's coach took off with Mateer to Oklahoma. Nobody here to coach the offense. They won't change their style. That's the third piece in this. Washington State's an up-tempo, air raid style team. And if you're going to go air raid without a majority of parts and a backup quarterback who's thrown 7 passes, then 3 and outs are possible. Syracuse gets possession. Syracuse, by the way, runs the 3rd most plays per game of any team in the country. So you're going to get a lot of opportunity here with Syracuse. There's a part of me that says maybe a head coach would let up and ease up on another coach in a bowl game. But I don't think Fran Brown's that guy. Washington State, listen, when is Syracuse ever going to run into Washington State again? Never. When is Fran Brown ever going to run into this skeleton crew of coaches? Never. So scoring 50 on them, if he can do it, he'll do it for the benefit of his program. I got to believe that Syracuse gets over 38.5 here. Joe, they may get to the 30s in the first half if all goes well. We've seen it done before by them. So give me Syracuse team total up and over 38.5.
Now, having said that, Vino, Washington State just announced they're joining the ACC. No, I'm only kidding. Why not? Everyone else does from out west anyway. Coach Dubs, 22 over on Instagram, likes to play how I bet this game, Vino. I, too, was a little worried about the back end of this game here. I took him first quarter, first half. Because I can see Fran Brown coming out of the gate, Kyle McCord. This could be, 28-3 at the break here. I think the 10, maybe the first half, 10.5, somewhere in that ballpark. It was hovering around 8 to 9 early in the week. So maybe either you bet it early, Syracuse, or you leave it alone.
Yeah, I could definitely do that. Like I say, you've got so many options here. You got to focus in on what you like best, but first half is certainly an option. Now, I don't feel like Fran Brown would pull anybody until the end of 3, which by that time the damage might be done as far as my end of it is concerned, team total over. But we just saw him in a game recently where he put the backups in and still tried to score. And you know how we try and chart these guys who want to just keep scoring till the end. He's one of them. So I could see both of those, Joe. I could see first half with Syracuse laying a shorter number. I could see Syracuse team total full game.
Love it. All right, Big Daddy in the house. He agrees with you, Vino. Too many points for Syracuse to cover, like the over 59.5, like the over 30.5 in the first half, he says as well. And it looks like a lot of first half folks jumping on. Also, do not forget, guys, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. Great opportunity to partner up with these guys in a Fill Your Cart promo we're going to get to here in just a few. But we did want to tackle roundtable style with these guys. Some of these playoff games coming up within the week. And, of course, here we go. The first year of a 12-team playoff. It's a little, shall we say, interesting that the 4 best teams in the country aren't seeded 1 through 4. So that's why we have teams like Ohio State as an 8 seed getting ready to take on Oregon. So let me go back to you, Ross, in this game. Start it off for us. You've got Ohio State, an 8 seed, which is just funny saying it, taking on Oregon. We've already seen this game this year. How much does that influence what you think might happen in this game based upon a 1-point loss in Oregon? It feels like a million years ago.
Yeah, I got a few questions for you, Joe.
Shoot.
And bear with me through this, okay? Who's the number 1 team in the country?
Oregon.
Who's undefeated in this matchup?
Oregon.
Who won the first matchup between these 2 teams?
Oregon.
All right, and who's favored in the game?
Ohio State.
Give me Ohio State. And that's all I got to say. That's my analysis.
I love it.
That's my total analysis. I'm not going to break it down any further other than to say that Oregon gave up over 500 yards of offense to Penn State last week. Oregon gives up a lot of yards on the ground, but that's all null and void because the 3 questions I asked Joe are all you need to know. And, folks, you need to start thinking like a bookmaker or odds maker, I should say, because they're not that nice. They don't give money away.
They don't at all, and that's a solid point. They like to hold on to their money. Ohio State, by the way, up to 2.5 we're seeing in some spots as well. So the money has certainly seemed to be coming, and agree with you there, Ross, coming in not for the undefeated team who already beat Ohio State, but the other way around. Rob Vino, how about you? Listen, I already know, I think, where you're leaning in this one here because I can't imagine you sweating out an under in this game, but how are you approaching it?
Well, it's interesting, Joe, because the odds makers did open at 1 and money pushed it all the way to 2.5, right? So it's guys who got to the counter first that believe in Ohio State. And isn't it funny what one game can make? And talk about Ohio State before they just played that last game and nobody wanted any part of them. Tennessee's going to beat them outright. Ryan Day is going to get fired, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You play a game, the other team doesn't. What your eyes saw last pushes you to the counter with money on that side. It's going to, in all likelihood, Joe, it's another back and forth. You get great weather conditions again. You get two teams where the offenses are better than the defenses, although Ohio State has nice defensive numbers. Remember, in this game, they couldn't stop Oregon. They probably should have won that game in Eugene, if not for their head coach and their time management at the end where they didn't get a chance to kick a field goal to win the game. But dead even, 32-31. I've said before, if that game was played in Columbus, Ohio State probably wins. But it wasn't. It was played in Eugene. For Oregon, it's kind of interesting, Joe, that they didn't have their top pass rusher, Jordan Birch, even available in that game against Ohio State. But he's back. Came back last game. He's back now. He's got 8.5 sacks on the season, despite the time he spent injured. So you'll have extra pass rush on Will Howard here. And I guess the question you have to ask yourself, is Ohio State really the team that beat Tennessee? Listen, Tennessee has no come-from-behind ability whatsoever. You get Tennessee and you get a lead on them, and they're not coming back with Iamaleava at quarterback and that offense that's been stagnant all year long except for Dylan Sampson. Ohio State took advantage, got up quick. They built the lead, and they crushed that team because they couldn't do anything against their defense. I probably agree with what you said initially. This total's been pushed from 52.5 to 55. 55 is pretty key. You're sitting on 28-27, 31-24. Those are tough numbers, 34-21. So you have to think you're going to get into the high 50s here. We saw 63 the first time around. I just don't know. And I heard Ryan Day talk about adjustments after watching film. I don't know what they can adjust, Joe, because to me, Oregon's got as many offensive adjustments and as many offensive answers as he has defensive answers. So probably a back and forth track meet one more time. I haven't played the game yet. If I had to lean, I'd lean toward the over here. Still looking at, sidewise, but probably more apt to play this one over 55.
Yeah, it'd be tough to sweat out an under. And I love Jim Knowles, the defensive coordinator for Ohio State. But boy, oh boy, that's a big ask here to keep this thing low scoring. Teddy, I'm wondering, out of sight, out of mind here, my man. How much recency bias with all this love for Ohio State in the marketplace do you think? Because everyone just saw them. I was going to say, is that partly to explain why everyone's running to the window to bet Ohio State, you think?
All four teams that played last week have attracted betting attention for this week. And you can understand why. And certainly, it may benefit teams to play that first week as opposed to having a long layoff. We think about the NFL playoffs and the team that gets the bye week and how big of an edge is it? Yeah, it's a big edge, but then oftentimes the team that comes out of the bye week doesn't play with that same level of execution that they did going in. So it does concern me about the teams that have been sitting for a month now compared to the teams that have already played. And certainly – the fact that Arizona State was in a conference championship game, Boise State was in a championship game, that probably works in their favor.
It's going to be interesting, to say the least, round two between those two teams for sure. We also have, what Teddy was just talking about. And Teddy, I'll come back to you. You've got two teams that a lot of people don't feel belong anywhere even remotely close to the seeding that they are in Boise State and Arizona State. Boise State taking on Penn State, and a lot of people love Penn State here right now. We're looking at what, Teddy? A pretty big number, double digits, 10.5, 53. Boise State, is there going to be an upset somewhere along the line here, and could this be the game that sees it?
So last week on this show, you asked me a question: is one of the four favorites going to lose? Is it just, do you want a 14 money line parlay? And I'm like, no, one of the four favorites is going to lose. And not only didn't one of the four favorites lose, they all covered the spread as big chalk. So I was dead wrong in that assessment last week. That being said, yes, I think that at least one of the teams, at least one of these two big favorites, you have Texas laying a big price against Arizona State, and you have Penn State laying a big price against Boise. Boise's shown they can hang tough All right. We learned that week 2 at Oregon and that 3-point loss. All right. And people weren't impressed with Boise's win over UNLV in the Mountain West Championship game. Boise was unbelievable in that contest, given the weather conditions, given all that, and Madsen's ability to make throws. Obviously Ashton Junty's the guy who gets all the pub for Boise, but that team has a defense, that team has a passing game, and they're not here by accident. And of course, they're being disrespected, and we love playing the teams that get the disrespect card. So I think Boise might be live against Penn State, and it's just not all that different between Arizona State and Texas, right? I think Texas is better than Penn State, which may not bode well for Arizona State's chances, but me, you, anybody, Ross, Rob, anyone who stepped in front of Arizona State this season has learned their lesson, because all Arizona State all year has been like, yeah, you look at those preseason projections. You can stick those right where the sun don't shine. Oh, yeah, they're okay. They're pretty good. You can stick that right where the sun don't shine. All right. All that team has done is burn their the people that have dismissed them, burn their money. So I'm in no rush to lay it with Texas or Penn State in those 2 games. I'm really not.
And it's funny, Ross, because he's right. In that Clemson game, it was bet all the way up to almost 2 touchdowns. They did get the cup barely. Clemson had a million opportunities to stick it to Texas in that game and just fell a little bit short. But nobody had Clemson scoring as many points as they did on that defense of Texas at home. And we're right back again, laying 13 and a half, almost 2 touchdowns here against Arizona State. If there was a dog to be found here, which one do you think has a better shot of staying within this number? Is it Arizona State or is it Boise State?
I tend to agree with Teddy. I think both teams have a shot at staying inside this number, albeit, I'm not of a strong opinion in the Boise State game. I am in this Arizona State-Texas game. Teddy mentioned it. He said stepping in front of Arizona State down the stretch was suicide. I mean, this team finished 6-0 straight up in ATS in their last 6. They won the Big 12 championship game over a very good Iowa State team and in convincing fashion. I said it last week, and I think I said it a couple times to you, Joe. I'm just not a big Texas, not a fan, but I'm not a big believer in Texas. I think their defense is tremendous, okay? But look, Clemson exposed them a little bit last week in that regard. I hate their quarterback, Quinn Ewers, not personally, but in terms of a guy I want to lead my team to the national championship game, he'd be the least quarterback I ask right now. Okay, and I think Arizona State is totally capable of staying inside this number, if not pulling an outright upset here. But I won't get greedy. I'll take the points here with Arizona State. The Boise game, again, I can't disagree with Teddy's assessment whatsoever, but I just don't have a strong enough opinion in that game to pull the trigger on either team right now.
Vino, how about you? Who are you giving do you like maybe both of these? The numbers gotten too far out of whack for you? I know you were big on Penn State last week. Is the number too far gone here for you to think about it with Penn State or Texas, or do you think these dogs are live?
It's the same game, right, Joe? I could probably write the same analysis for both of these games. One side's going to come out, throw 9 in the box to stop Genty and make the quarterback beat him. The other team's going to throw 9 in the box, stop Scatterbo, and ask Levitt to beat them. You and I talked last week. Ross mentioned he doesn't like Quinn Ewers, and we talked about the 12 quarterbacks that are in this playoff. Where are the good ones? Really, they're not. I argued that Sam Levitt could be one of the 4 best. He's a freshman for Arizona State. But these run defenses are real. And Cam Scatterbo, is he going to run through Texas's defense? Probably not. The difference between Arizona State and Clemson is Clemson can lead with the pass. It's what they do best. They can't run it a lick, but Klubnik can throw it. He's got receivers, and they got the Texas's defense through the air. A lot of it can come from behind fashion. Arizona State can't lead with the pass. They lost their number 1 wide receiver. They got away with it against Iowa State. Why did they get away with it against Iowa State? Because Iowa State started the third quarter by committing 3 turnovers in their own territory that led to 21 points, and the game was over at that point. So if I had to choose one, Joe, and both point totals are, the dog is getting substantial points. I'd probably lean Boise because you have less faith in James Franklin. Can we get to the James Franklin factor now? He got through SMU, and SMU's defense is not Boise's defense, right? SMU's defense, you knew they were fraudulent. I think when we talked last week, I expressed my dislike for Kevin Jennings. He just got that deer in the headlights, and what did he do? He gave us like 21 points for Penn State last week. Maddox isn't Madsen isn't gonna do that for Boise State here. I feel like Boise State protects the football more. They're going to be asked to do a little bit through the air, but I would trust Boise on the neutral a little bit more than I would trust ASU here, just because I think ASU is so dependent on Scadaboo. Not only is he the guy they're going to hand it off to, but once they lost their leading wide receiver, the second leading receiver on the team is Scadaboo, not one of their wide receivers. So I don't know. Kenny Dillingham's a nice play caller, and he went to a lot of play action and beat Iowa State over the top. But again, Iowa State's defense isn't Texas's. I think that's proven out throughout the season. If you're going to ask me to choose one, I'm going to choose Boise State plus points. I think Boise State's got the better shot.
Oh, I love this. All right, before we get to, and I want to get Teddy's thoughts on the over-under on Statue of Liberty plays in the Boise State game. But before we do that, Teddy, let me ask you, again, I mentioned it, guys, fill your card promo right now, Holiday 25. You can partner up with these guys. This is good through New Year's Eve. Go there right now, save 25% on any one of these guys. Put them all in the damn cart and save 25% right now over at WagerTalk.com. Teddy, before we get to the Georgia Notre Dame breakdown, which is truly priced as a pick'em here, tell the folks what you got locked, loaded, ready to roll at your page of WagerTalk.
So, obviously, it's a big weekend. It's a big time of year. We do have a 5% big ticket available right now in college football. 100% perfect with those college football big tickets dating back to 2023. I won the last 5, and I don't put out a whole lot of them. You can get that right now on my page, wt.buzz/TC. But again, don't buy a play. Get on board with the package. We got bowl season packages. We got daily, weekly, monthly, seasonal packages all available. And that promo code HOLIDAY25 at checkout gets you 25% off anything in my cart. So we're locked with college football, NFL, NBA right now, and it'll be that way all weekend long.
Yeah. And by the way, the Creeper Santa is extra, guys. Anybody looking to get that in that thing? I mean, look at this creeping bastard. Look at him. Ross, let me ask you here if we can. What do you have locked loaded? Again, your record speaks for itself, certainly in bowl season in college football and across the board here. But what are you invested in with the clients, and what can folks get at your page?
Well, if you're watching right now live, I got the Georgia Tech and Vanderbilt winner. A game, what Teddy said, 2 really good quarterbacks. One was just granted his 20th year of eligibility. But in any event, I have the winner in that game. And then, again, my bowl season right now, 5-2, 31-17 in the college football postseason since 2022. It's good for 65%. In my college football overall, again, I know it gets a little bit redundant, but you know what? If I don't toot my own horn, nobody else will. 139-95, 59%, net profit of over $10,000, number one in money earned in college football during that period of time, which is over 2 years. That streak started on November 26th of 2022. I'll have plenty of action, big card in college football on Saturday. College football playoffs coming up this week, and also a host of NBA and college basketball as well, Joe.
Little something for everyone at his page, guys, over at WagerTalk.com, as well as Rob Vino continuing to roll it. It's been a hell of a holiday week for you here, Vino. What do you got locked and loaded over at your page?
Yeah, December overall has been kind, Joe. Number one at WagerTalk in all sports, up 45.4 units over the course of the month of December. NBA number one during that point in time as well. Like Russ says, I guess, my hand doesn't reach my back all that often. I hate to tout, but it's been a good month. We'll just leave it at that. Today, college football up and available. Got a 3-pack going here off of a pair of winners yesterday in college football as well. The games I like to play a lot of overs, and yesterday was a nice day for overs, so it worked out. Today we got 3 more, and to just expand on what Teddy said, I too have my first 5% college football bowl game going. There's one upcoming, Joe, that I just didn't really understand the number. Still don't really understand it, so it's going to be released as a 5% blue chip. You can check it all out, wt.buzz/RB.
Yeah, I try not to reach and my back, which is why I hold things like this around a lot, so we can. Oh, I'm sorry, that's the wrong one. Yes, no, like this around. Yes, sorry, that was the wrong one. But yes,
goes with your sweater yesterday, Joe. The sweater was priceless.
We got plenty of things to reach around there. We are good to go. All right, guys, let's do it. 1 game left. Truly, it feels like this could be a national championship game. It's priced that way as a pick-em, Teddy. Georgia, Notre Dame, backup quarterback for Notre Dame. For Georgia now. But, he was good enough to be able to hold on and beat Texas last time out. He's had some time to get acclimated. Do we like Georgia in here to do Georgia things, or is this maybe, just maybe, and I know one of the guys on the panel here very early on got on one of these shows and was like, Notre Dame, national champion. Could this be the year here, Teddy? What are you thinking?
I'm sorry, Joe, I had to reconnect there. What was the last thing you said?
No, one of the guys on this panel at the beginning of the season came on one of these shows and said, bet Notre Dame to win it all. They're live with a backup quarterback going up against a backup quarterback in Georgia, or are people overthinking the backup quarterback situation with Georgia in this one?
So it's not like Carson Beck had a year that everyone's like, oh, yeah, we want to be betting on this guy. And it's not like the backup didn't come in and lead them to victory. So if you're talking about a power rating adjustment for Georgia, I'm not powering them down based on the QB situation. I'm not powering down, not even a point. That being said, there's not a chance I play this game. So shouldn't say that. There's not a chance I play this game at the current number. All right. At 3, I would look at the Irish side. All right. Before 3, these are 2 teams that are both capable of going all the way.
Yeah.
One of them has made their backers money all year. Notre Dame's 11-2 ATS. The others burned their backers money all year. Georgia's 4-9 at ATS. In general, in bowl season, I prefer to have the weaker point spread team in the regular season, in general. All right. The teams that have been winning games and covering spreads all year have much bigger betting bandwagons. The teams like Georgia that haven't been winning games and covering spreads all year have much smaller betting bandwagons. That being said, I'm not looking to step in front of Notre Dame. I'm not. And this to me is very much a pick-em contest. I think someone's going to win it by a field goal at the end. I think the Irish are live to do that. So if I get a +3, I would look at the Notre Dame side at the current number. I'm not close. I'm not interested. I need a full field goal in a game that I price as pick'em before I get to the betting window with that pick'em. So it's again, there's better. There are other opportunities I will be involved in on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. This is a marquee game. But from a betting standpoint, I'm not getting there. Not yet.
It really does feel. I look at his total too. At 44, we're sitting there. It's got national championship and defensive struggle written all over it. Rob Vino, is that the way you're looking here too? I'd love to bet the over here, but with these 2 defenses, and this isn't even a great Georgia defense. But boy, experience matters, and this team. This is they got to hold Notre Dame down if they're going to win this game. I think with a backup quarterback.
Yeah, it's interesting, Joe, because when we get to this point in the past, it's Notre Dame against an SEC team. Here we go, just load up on the SEC team. But the difference, the separation between these teams this year, just doesn't feel like that much. When Notre Dame was playing Alabama, it felt like they could lose by 3 touchdowns. When Notre Dame played Jamarcus Russell and LSU, it looked like they felt like they could lose by 3 touchdowns. Here, it's just got a different feel. And you need a little bit out of Riley Leonard at quarterback. I'm almost glad he didn't play well last week because perhaps he'll play well this week against Georgia. And Georgia's been Teddy mentioned their point spread record for sure, but they've just been teetering all season long. I mean, they had to go 8 overtimes with Georgia Tech on Thanksgiving night, so they haven't been this demolition crew. And I always kind of feel like it's easier to come in a game as a backup quarterback and do well than it is to be the starter the following week. I don't have any statistical numbers to back that up. Just you watch 35, 40 years of football, and you see that happen over and over again. Now the guy's a big hero because he came into a game, and then the next week he's a flop because he's really not a starter. We'll see. I think Marcus Freeman's defense is really, really good. I think Notre Dame's ground game is really, really good. And I just happen to think that they match up in the trenches this time around. I don't know that the Georgia trench play is so superior. It just seems like a team that digs themselves a hole and somehow finds their way out of it more often than not. As for the points here, if you're going to play this game, you're going to play Notre Dame at this price, you're playing money line. You're not taking a point. I mean, you're playing the money line. It makes no sense to take 1.5 or 1 point. I really want to get to Notre Dame. I just can't talk myself into it yet.
So, Ross, I had mentioned there was one guy on this panel long time ago, came on one of these shows and told everyone right here on WagerTalk TV, bet Notre Dame at a pretty damn healthy number at that time, too, to win a national championship. Might you remember who that was?
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Joe. I do remember. It's Ross Benjamin. But anyway, I was on a show with Kelly at the Last Call show, and you saw that pretty face when I told her Notre Dame. She asked me who my sleeper was. Well, at plus 1,500 at that time, I considered that to be a sleeper. You looked at Notre Dame's schedule and you said, hey, look, their chances are as good as anybody to get to the playoffs, and then you never know what will happen. Well, you know what? They're here, and they're ready to play, and I absolutely love them in this game. Not because I predicted them way back when, but the bottom line is I think Rob hit it right on the nose. They match up very well. This isn't your typical Notre Dame team, and quite frankly, I thought Georgia was Georgia's version last year was much better than one this year, and that last year they didn't make the playoffs because there was only 4 teams. So having said that, where I think Notre Dame will prevail here is in the running game. I know Georgia shut down Texas last week on the ground, but they also gave up 358 yards in the air to Quinn Ewers, So the bottom line is this, folks. Notre Dame, to me, will be able to run the ball. Notre Dame is just as good, if not better, defensively, and I like Riley Leonard better in the backup quarterback. Rob, you said it perfectly. Guys who come in a backup role, they succeed, and they come in the middle of the game and they become a hero. Well, now the coaching staff of their next opponent has all week to prepare for them. So that's where that all comes in, and I think that will work to Notre Dame's advantage here. Be preparing all week for what a backup quarterback does, what his strengths are, I think will benefit Notre Dame in this spot. I absolutely love the Irish in this matchup. It's going to be a client play. So there you go, folks.
Boom. Ain't broke. Don't fix it. Got him to this point here, guys. Notre Dame, Georgia. I'm seeing in the chat room a lot of looks at the under in the first half. 22.5, somewhere in that ballpark, expecting maybe slow go defenses will be the name of the game early, and see what kind of coaching adjustments can be made late. Don't hate that look either. But we are down to the nitty-gritty here, guys. We're that much closer to crowning a national champion. But in the meantime, we got a trillion bowl games, ton of NBA, ton of college hoops is back tomorrow. No reason not to partner up with one or all of these guys, whether it be Ross, Rob, or Teddy. Go fill that cart right now. Take advantage of the opportunity to partner with these guys and take 25% off using that code HOLIDAY25 at checkout. Again, do what Creeper Sanders says. Use that code HOLIDAY25 now through New Year's Eve, guys. Take that 25% off. Fill that cart. And make sure you get ready to make it one hell of a profitable end to 2024. All right, that'll do it. If you haven't done so already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit the follow button on IG and TikTok. Always a pleasure to see you guys. Thanks for hanging out with us. Coach Dubs, by the way, pointing out Notre Dame kicker healthy again. And also he says he's been following Rob Vino for the last 15 years, which is ironic because Rob Vino is only, 30? So, which is kind of crazy that you got a bunch of you two dudes following each other when you're 15. Take advantage of that, though, guys. Teddy's locked and loaded. Ross, as is Vino. And make sure you plan on coming back, joining us again next week. We'll be that much closer to crowning a national championship. So, hope you guys had a very safe, happy, and profitable Christmas. I hope it's an even better New Year, and hopefully we'll be able to help you along with that on WagerTalk TV. Guys, best of luck. Enjoy all the games. We'll see you again next week here on the College Football Kickoff Show.